Hello! Welcome to Wednesday. I wanted to do a little live today. I've had a couple of good questions from my post about questions for my lives, so please keep them coming. Check out my post, drop your questions in my story or in my DMs. Any question, there's no question too big or too small. I want to know what you want to know about the voice and singing and speech and music and mindset and all that kind of stuff that I love. Today, though, something that came through as wanting to be spoken about was something that I try to introduce pretty soon when working with new clients. Which is getting quite specific about the way that we are analysing or describing what's going on with our voice. So when somebody sings something for me in a session, the first thing that I do is ask them what they noticed, what they observed, what they heard, or what they felt physically or emotionally, and get them to try to describe what they're experiencing. And even before hearing a new client sing, we'll talk first about like what their goals are, why they're here, what they want to get out of working with me, what they like about their voice, what they feel are their strengths, and also what they would like to work on, change, improve, what they feel like their challenges are, the things they find difficult with singing. So in both of these contexts, people will describe their voice in one way or another, more often negative than positive. And I try to get people to be quite specific, because sometimes, especially like the younger singers, the teenagers will often be like, that was bad. And first of all, there is no bad or good voices, and that's a whole other rant that I could go on. But I'm saying, okay, if you feel like that was bad, what was bad about it? And you're not allowed to use the words good or bad. What are you noticing specifically? So that's the first piece, is just get a bit more specific. Like, was it too breathy, or did it feel uncomfortable? And that is another key point, and which I really wanted to talk about today, is getting specific about, is it the sound, or is it the feeling, the sensation that you're noticing? So sometimes I find people will say, that sounded bad, and I'm going, I'm not hearing, and I try to probe a little bit, like, what sounded bad about it? Like, what about the sound you like? And it's okay if you don't feel like you have a lot of the language to describe things, like that comes with time, and I try to equip people with language to describe what they're experiencing, both orally and physically, interoceptively, as we work together. So if you don't feel like you have the language at first, that's okay. And if you want to say it sounded sparkly, like that's okay. Like part of my job is to be an interpreter and take what people are describing to me and interpret that and sense into what they actually mean and what is actually physically going on for them, as well as like mentally and emotionally going on for them. But beyond, not having the language necessarily, sometimes when I probe a little bit about what it is about the sound they didn't like, they'll actually end up saying it felt strained. So did it sound strained, or did it feel strained? Or both. Could be both. Quite often people think that they're noticing a sound that they don't like, but actually there's nothing wrong with the sound. It's more that it didn't feel good to produce that sound, and it's the sensation that they're not feeling comfortable with. So that's one angle that this can sometimes come from. And then the flip side is people can be describing sensation but actually mean sound. So yeah, it felt wrong, or it felt strained when actually like they just didn't like what the sound was. So it can go in both directions. So I just wanted to make a short video today to talk about the importance in like trying to be quite specific, because it's really easy because we're emotionally invested in what we're doing as singers. When we sing, it's very vulnerable, we take it very personally, we feel like there's something wrong with our voice. So it's very easy to get really caught up in your emotional reaction to your sound and go like, something about that I didn't like, and just like slap a label on it real quick and be like, this is wrong, this is bad. But actually taking the time to take a breath and have a proper think about it and go, what am I actually not liking? Is it the sound? Is it the sensation? And then getting specific about what it is that you would like to change. And if you didn't like it, I think that this is important because to help your coach, if you're working with a singing teacher or a vocal coach, yes, it's my job to be an interpreter and I don't mind that, but it'll speed the process up if you can be really specific about what it is that you're not liking or that you want to work on or that you want to change. It also just helps you get clear about, what you do and don't want. So thinking both about what you want to move away from and what you want to move towards. I think both of those are really important. If you only focus on like, I don't like that, and you know what you don't want, but you don't actually know what you do want, what kind of sound or sensation you actually want to move towards, like that's a really important thing to be considering as well. And the last piece about this is when you do take the time to kind of think about and get a little bit more specific about the way that you're analysing or describing your vocal experience, you might uncover some judgments about your voice that you have that are coming from beliefs and stories that you've got about A, your voice, or B, voices or singing in general, that come from external sources, and you might want to consider whether those sources are trustworthy, valuable, helpful, or kind. If you have a belief that there is a right or wrong way to make sound, a right or wrong way to breathe, a right or wrong way to stand, a right or wrong kind of voice, good or bad vocal quality, that's a whole other conversation, but that's something that you might discover as you take the time to really think about, what is it about this sound or this sensation that I'm not liking? What would I like to move towards instead of that? And you might discover that you have a belief that a nasal voice is bad. And think about, where did that come from? What is a nasal sound actually really useful for? I will do a whole other video at some point on nasal, because what a lot of people describe as a nasal voice, if they're talking about a bright, twangy kind of sound like this, that kind of sound doesn't actually have anything to do with the nose. It's produced by a mechanism in the larynx, and the nasal sound might not be what you think it is, but that's a whole other video. But yeah, we have these judgments that come from stories that we've heard externally by someone who seemed to know what they were talking about good or bad, right or wrong. And you might, upon some reflection, discover that that doesn't actually match up with your values, and, or you just might want to sit with it for a while and listen to a bunch of different music and go, where are some voices that have that quality that are actually really cool or really well respected, or have some really special abilities. So that's my little ramble for today. Drop a comment if you have any thoughts about any of this. If you have any experience with noticing that what you thought was a sound you didn't like was actually a sensation you didn't like, or vice versa. Or if you have any other questions that you would like me to address in a future live. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. Okay, see ya.